There was a state trooper out there. I wasn't able to get his name, but there was a state trooper out there who was filmed on video talking to some of these protesters, hopefully the peaceful protesters, and he was asked about kneeling. Now, this is a black trooper, and he said, look, I'm here to protect your right to do all this, but I don't kneel for these kind of political protests. I only kneel to God.
I wouldn't have took, I'm supposed to be out of town this weekend with my wife. I took off today, this weekend, but I'm out here to make sure y'all safe. But don't go there with respect, okay? Thank you. I have much respect, but I only kneel for one person.
And that's God.
God, okay.
I only kneel for one person, and that's God. I like it. I like this guy's attitude. I like how he talks. I like what he's saying. You might go a little bit broader than that, okay? Because I think people kneel for other reasons than God, at least sometimes. Like, for instance, if I were in the United Kingdom and I were about to be made a knight, I was going to be Sir Michael someday, a boy can dream, I would kneel down and, I'd get the sword on me. You can kneel for that. You can kneel if you're Catholic or Eastern Orthodox or Anglican. You can kneel in other sorts of prayer, in contemplative prayer. People kneel when they're meditating, for instance. Okay, fine. You could say more broadly, kneeling is a sign of respect, right? And this is what's so weird about the kneeling protests, other than people protesting their own country, is that kneeling has become a sign of disrespect. The left does this to everything. They invert everything, and they've done it even with the kneeling. So now the kneeling is a sign of disrespect. Where does this come from? I mean, where do you get this kind of situation where people are actively protesting their own country? It has been building up on the left for a long time, and our most recent actual left-wing president brought this out in people. His wife, Michelle Obama, was just giving a graduation speech on Zoom for all of America, and she explained this kind of left-wing activism, this kind of left-wing character, which is to stay angry. She did. She said, be angry. Don't let anyone ever tell you not to be angry. She begins by more or less disrespecting and denying the reality of the American dream.
But here's the thing. While this period is certainly unprecedented, it is not a complete anomaly, simply some random coincidence to be dismissed. Now, what's happening right now is the direct result of decades of unaddressed prejudice and inequality. The truth is, when it comes to all those tidy stories of hard work and self-determination that we like to tell ourselves about America, well, the reality is a lot more complicated than that. Because for too many people in this country, no matter how hard they work, there are structural barriers working against them that just make the road longer and rockier. And sometimes it's almost impossible to move upward at all. Because if you're required to work during a pandemic, but don't have enough protective equipment or health insurance from your employer or paid sick leave, well, what is more essential, your work or your life?
There it is. There's the classic. It's impossible. You can't succeed. America's never going to work for some people. It's interesting that in this clip, she went back to the pandemic, because it seems to me that so many left-wing rioters, peaceful rioters, have been ignoring the allegedly extraordinarily deadly pandemic for the past 2-3 weeks as they've poured out by the 100,000 to protest, right? But then at that point, they ignored the pandemic. The public health officials said, it's actually good to go protest. Don't worry about the pandemic. We'll worry about the pandemic later. So it's interesting that she focused on that because it seems so odd. But it's also interesting that she, the wife of the first black president, who was elected twice, talks about how America's hopelessly racist, hopelessly unjust. There's no way to succeed. I mean, this is boilerplate left-wing stuff. And what they have to do is tell you as Americans that you can't succeed. This place is hopelessly unjust. You are simply useless. You can't do anything on your own because it justifies more and more policies that give them greater control over the country, that undermine our country's political traditions and undermine your very ability to pull yourself up. That's where she begins. How does she foment the kind of political action that she's calling for? She tells people to be angry.
Those of you who feel invisible, please know that your story matters. Your ideas matter. Your experiences matter. Your vision for what our world can and should be matters. So don't ever, ever let anyone tell you that you're too angry or that you should keep your mouth shut.
Here's my message to the left in America. You're too angry and you should keep your mouth shut. That's I know it's a different message than Michelle Obama is giving you, but that is my message. The left pushes anger because when people get really angry, they don't think straight. Because anger is an easy emotion. It's the easiest emotion to play. It's the easiest emotion to live. Drew Clavin says that anger is the devil's cocaine. Anger is the devil's cocaine. It unleashes bad things. In Italian culture, we have, especially Sicilian culture, here in America, we have an expression which is don't get mad, get even. Right? The idea being when you're angry, you're not going to be able to control yourself as well. You're not going to be able to think as well. So get even. Calm down that anger. But the left encourages that anger because that anger makes you more easy to manipulate. You can see people running on the absurdity of this anger all the way at some of the highest levels in government.